So Angry Meow sent out a Cyberboard R3 for me to take a look at. It launched in Wes Anderson inspired colors Budapest pink and aquatic green, and unfortunately those sold out really fast. The anodized black and the E-white may still be in stock if you move really fast as well, but you better bring a big bag full of money because this one's gonna hurt. You ready? Let's go! So the Cyberboard R3 from Angry Meow is loaded with features, which is good because it goes for a breathtaking $570 US and is modeled after Elon's Cybertruck design. This is in brief pre-order right now with units expected to ship in November. The important headline there is that they didn't sell anything that's not already produced. You may remember an issue with the R2 where they had trouble getting the finish up to QC standards. Not only did they completely refund everybody who bought on pre-sale, but they threw everyone an additional $80 US on top of the refund just for their trouble. That's an unusually good guy move in the world of group buys and something that really got my attention. So today we have the Cloud White version, which arrives in a custom flight case. The white coating here is an E-white or electrophoresis coating. Science, bitch! Which gives the color that nice saturation and density. Obviously, the LED screen is a big standout feature, and we'll dive into this more in just a minute. It comes fully assembled, and this is the heaviest keyboard I've ever had my hands on. It's stated to weigh at 2.4 kilos or approximately 5.3 pounds. I'm gonna have to take their word for that because it's the only keyboard I've ever reviewed that exceeds the capabilities of my scale. Also included in the case are a few stickers, a very thick operations manual, a couple Torx wrenches, and a couple spare titanium case screws and plate screws. This is bare bones, so my copy arrived with no switches, no stabilizers, and no caps. Plate on this one is aluminum and has 5-pin south-facing hot swap sockets from Kailh. It's a 75% layout, so you get your function row and a handful of extra keys, but no rotary encoder. You get a pretty crazy 10-degree typing angle with no adjustment of any sort. This, coupled with the front case height of like 18 millimeters, makes using a wrist rest necessary for me. The board supports wired via center-mounted USB-C and wireless via Bluetooth 5. It supports connection to 3 devices simultaneously, and there is a little plastic pass-through in the front of the case for the Bluetooth antenna. On the underside of the board, you have wireless charging, which was really unexpected. This is slated to work with their upcoming charging mat, but actually works just fine with any flat Qi charger you have laying around. It doesn't charge very fast though, but one of the lighting modes you can toggle to on the LED screen is a battery life indicator, which is super handy to have. Removing the lower panel leaves you with a larger than expected piece that contains dual 5,000 milliamp hour batteries behind the charging coils, so there's plenty of juice packed in here for running in wireless. These are behind a sheet of Poron as well. Moving into the top frame of the board, you have a daughter board that handles the USB-C and control for the LED screen. We also have another flat sheet of Poron covering another cut sheet of Poron, and this is a pretty elegant solution to case dampening because you're not just compressing the backs of the sockets into a single foam. It's a nice little detail. This is a gasket mount, so like we've seen a lot lately, you have your plate, your PCB, and yet another layer of Poron in between, all assembled as a single piece with Poron dampeners on plate standoffs. This is similar to the GMMK Pro or the KVD67 Lite or the Portico or literally any other gasket mount we've seen over the past year. To get inside this assembly, which you will need to do in order to install your stabilizers, you're going to need to remove like 10 of these little screws and 2 of these big flat ribbon cables. Luckily, these are large and the connectors are pretty robust, so this isn't like high stakes trying to get it apart. It's pretty easy. Stabs here are PCB mounted and you'll need to provide these yourself. I went with the new Gaterons that are more or less Durock V2s, standard lube with some 205 grade 0 and a little dielectric on the wire. I don't much mess with stab pads or Holy Mod anymore. I stick with the old reliable, the 205 grade 0 and the dielectric because they come out sounding great and they still feel really crisp. Switches today are the Ice Candies from Texi. These came from Prevail Keyco. Lightweight, linear, polycarb housing with nylon stem and pretty affordable at like 60 cents per. I just ran these stock, if you can believe that, because the factory lube here is both really effective and really consistent. I will put a big sound test at the end that has a variety of different switches. Caps and desk mat here today are Modern Dolch Light, which I picked up on extras from Omnitype. I do want to point out this very expensive keycap puller from Gateron. It's like 30 bucks. I know, it sounds dumb, right? But here's why I like it. If you have a board that has really tight corners and you have a high-end coating or custom paint job, using this can prevent something like this. This definitely is not a necessary purchase 90% of the time out there, but if you have really nice boards, get yourself a nice puller that's easy on the finish. So the typing feel here is pretty firm. You can get the plate to move if you try, but it's not a flexy or bouncy board by any stretch. I'm actually kind of surprised that with all the Poron in this board, it's not more muted sounding. The Ice Candies come off really poppy and the bottom out feel is firm but no resonance. It's a premium typing experience if you can get past the angle. There's no ping or hollow sound. It's definitely not thawky like the ABS plastic entry-level boards we see. It's got a nice character to it. The E-white coating is really high-end, really well executed, and despite this being almost a final retail, there are really very few imperfections, which is great to see with a price tag this high. And part of the reason why the price price tag is so high is because of this LED screen. This is a love it or hate it thing, and with the keyboard community being so passionate, I can't see anyone being indifferent about this. This is a matrix of 200 LEDs that allows for total customization and brightness control. The angle they've picked here makes it so you can see 100% of this panel while you're seated using the board. It will reflect in your monitor, particularly at high brightness, but it doesn't throw enough light to cause any kind of screen glare. It comes with 3 canned animations, a multicolor mode, a charge level, and a clock, which never seems to be on time. There is a massive, really impressive community library of these animations that you can grab and then load the JSON files into the board using Meow's loader. Ideally, you can also create completely custom animations, and the online editor is pretty nice, but on my copy, I couldn't get custom JSONs to load. I can download and use any of the existing published animations in the library, but full custom animations were bugged out and just simply didn't work for me. And this is where things start to go a little sideways. This board makes quite a statement in terms of customization when it comes to the LED screen, but we really don't see that philosophy executed in other areas of the board. For one, there is no VIA or QMK support. That's a big strike at this price point. Instead, you have Meow's own loader, where you can either pick the LED screen or the layout. This functions kind of like a mini QMK, where you prep a JSON file and then load it into the board, same as the LED screen. The issue is that it's pretty rudimentary and that I can only find support to change the main layer. So no function layer rebinding, no moving the function key like say to caps lock, no macros, no shortcuts, even though there are basic canned shortcuts provided. That's rough, not only because of the price tier, but because this is a really niche board for serious enthusiasts, which is the exact same market of people that specifically would want access to multiple layer rebinding. The other thing you may have picked up on there is that there's no option to change the PCB LED lighting. That means you're limited to toggling through the handful of canned animations. They look smooth, but I can't even find support for solid color, let alone per key addressable RGB. And while normally that wouldn't even be a topic of conversation in a serious enthusiast board, it's just really weird to see that lack of customization sitting next to the ultra customizable LED screen. There may be something I'm missing here or some workaround method to this, but it's nothing that's immediately obvious to me or likely your average consumer. Worth noting too that the PCB RGB arrives at like 50% brightness to conserve battery life, but you can really crank it up if you want. So all that leaves us in a pretty tricky spot because this is a top tier price point. I understand the manufacturing costs associated with producing a board like this. There's a crazy amount of detail and design here and everything feels premium. But at this much money, we should only be talking about whether or not this aesthetic hits for you. Like if you don't like the look of this board, it's a done deal. But if you do like the look of the board, it's probably going to be disappointing to find a lack of layer rebinding or RGB customization. I hope I'm just missing something obvious here. I would much rather look stupid and be wrong than to be right about this one. Outside of that criticism, there is a lot to like here. Great typing feel and sound, and I don't think it gets more unique looking than this board. The wireless charging is nice, the big battery life is great, and the Bluetooth performance and flexibility are all solid as well. If you have a bank account big enough to park a Cybertruck in, this may be the board for you. I want to take a minute to talk to you about today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is an online learning platform that puts a big emphasis on interactive learning. That's where you're not just passively watching content or memorizing through repetition, you're actually doing, using interactivity to approach learning from a different perspective. And this year has seen some exciting revamps to courses that really crank up that level of interactivity. They recently relaunched Math Fundamentals. This is one of my favorites because it has a whole section on logic. I'm a big believer in continuing education as a means to stay sharp in life's other pursuits, and Brilliant is one of my favorite ways to do that, especially when it comes to logical problem solving, because it reminds me to look solely at the data and help take some of that emotion out of the equation. See what I did there? They have a huge catalog of courses too, so regardless of your course of study, if it revolves around math and science, Brilliant definitely has you covered. When you're ready to get smarter, you can join me and a community of over 8 million other learners and educators by going to brilliant.org/badseedtech. And as a bonus, the first 200 of you to do so will save 20% on the annual membership. Big thanks to Brilliant for continuing to support the channel, and thank you for your time. I know how valuable it is, and this channel simply wouldn't exist without the support from our sponsors. All right, any questions? Hit me in the comments, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay up.